guys, it's Joshua Reviews once again. Okay, so I don't really care enough about this movie, so I'm just gonna go ahead and cut straight to the chase. This is a cool cover. Beg. It's a cool cover. I like it. It's very woo. I debated about buying this movie for quite some time. I was like, I'm gonna buy this movie. I'm gonna buy it off eBay. I'm gonna buy it, and then the version that they were selling got sold, and then I saved the listing, or I saved like I got notification. I would get a notification in case someone would pop up, and it was $100. Then there was a new listing for someone selling it, and it was like $100 because it was like a rare DVD. I was like, fuck that. I'm gonna watch it somewhere else. Found it on Tubi. Okay, Tubi. I'm gonna watch it. See what this movie's about. Okay, so anyways, enough of that story that you guys don't even care about. Beg. It's a slasher detective murder mystery. There's a string of murders going on. This guy who wears a pumpkin mask and a jumpsuit, similar to Michael Myers, he kills random people, and this new detective who is basically being pulled off the case has to basically help the new detective, lead detective, come in and try to solve the series of murders. If that sounds interesting, yeah, because I like a good detective story. I've always had a soft spot for detective stories, especially if it's like Saw. I love the detective side plot of Saw, or side story of Saw. I think it's one of the key factors in what makes Saw interesting, because otherwise it would just be torture porn. Without the detective side of things and the great villain of John Kramer, it's a really engaging story, and it leaves you interested and engaged. So I just mentioned Saw, and I'll kind of use that as an example here. I just said why Saw is good. Good detective story and a good villain. John Kramer is an excellent villain, and a detective story is good. Now, this is a detective Halloween slasher. Okay? So, why does it fail in all regards? It fails in all categories, guys. It fails in everything. I mean, okay, look, I knew this movie wasn't going to be good from the get-go. I saw the trailer. I knew what I was getting myself into. I know these things. People think that, oh, you're going to watch a shit film. Like, yeah, I know that, but I'm going to watch it and try to be entertained, because as long as it entertains me, I don't really give a shit. I mean, I liked Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, for God's sakes. But this movie wasn't it, man. This movie was kind of ass. This movie was really ass. As a matter of fact, this was a really bad movie. And I'm going to keep it brief and short because I really don't feel like giving this movie that much attention. So, okay, so what did I like? Well, I thought the killer design was cool. Had a few creative kills here and there. I thought there were some funny moments. I think some of the acting was pretty good. Specifically two characters. The new detective that they get on, I think his name is Steve or some shit. I don't know, I kind of lost track of the names of the characters. But I thought the detective we're following in the story, he was pretty good. Some of the line delivery was kind of off, but you know, that's what you expect. And Tony Todd is in this movie. Forgot to mention that. Thought Tony Todd was really good. Tony Todd in this film was excellent, as a matter of fact. He's not in the film very much. He doesn't really serve a purpose, but you know what? That's okay. That's kind of how Tony Todd is put in these films. I don't know why he agrees to do these shitty films, but I love the man to death. If he's in it, I'll watch it. That's in part why I wanted to watch this film, but I'm so glad I didn't spend my money. I'm glad I didn't spend $100 on this damn film, because no way in hell would I have been like, yeah, I'm glad I spent that much money on a film like this, because oh boy, was this film shit. So anyways, that's stuff I like. I like Tony Todd. I like some of the acting. Kills were kind of cool. Design was cool, I guess. I mean, I'm always going to have a soft spot for someone dressed in a pumpkin mask, but this film was ass. The story is the main reason this movie fails for me. I did not find the story that engaging. There's some interesting build-up, but it never goes anywhere. It doesn't have a satisfying payoff. And I'm going to be honest, I skipped through most of this movie. I was just like, okay, fast forward. And I'm not like one of those persons who just skips to the end. I skip to the parts that, okay, I think there's going to be dialogue here, and I was able to follow it for the most part. Detective story. I felt like in the skipping that I did, I felt like I got to the beginning, middle, and end, and I felt like I understood what was going on, but at the same time, it still was very uninteresting. So I'm going to go ahead and spoil this film because I don't recommend you see this film. Basically, new detective is hired on the case because this string of murders has been going on for a while now, and it's Halloween, so they're getting, basically, there's more murders, like they're starting to appear more, and he is signed on to the case, and the detective who is going to retire kind of helps him to figure out who's behind the murders. Eventually, his sister goes missing, and he has to team up with another guy to basically go and find her. And there's also a side plot, or like a story that's kind of thrown around, where this witch was basically killed, and she came back to life, and she lives in this old farmhouse. There's that, but it's really not it's not really well explained, and it doesn't really add anything until the very end, which I'll go ahead and spoil. So it's revealed that the old detective, the detective who's gonna retire, he was the killer all along, and I kind of had a sneaking suspicion, although admittedly I did think it was the new detective who was hired onto the case specifically. That's what they do. So yeah, they get into like a brawl towards the end. He finds his sister, and the one guy he was with dies, and he's like, oh no, and the movie they just kind of give up on the case, I guess. Didn't really make a lot of sense. They're just like, yeah, the case is done, whatever. I guess I killed him or whatever. And the movie ends with basically our, detective who's going to retire. He goes to kill someone, and he goes to kill the witch. That was briefly explained in like the middle of the movie, which was like mentioned once in a campfire story. And she kills him, and that's it. Okay. That was a film I watched. So, quick version. The acting, the 90% of the acting is terrible, besides Tony Todd and the main character we're following, Steve, I believe his name is. Their acting was good, and he is in most of the movie, so thankfully, we had a good, solid lead performance. Story it had potential to be interesting, but ultimately failed because most of the movie just felt like padding. There's a lot of scenes that drag. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't add up to anything. There's no satisfying payoff in the end. There's a lot of characters that are thrown in and say a bunch of random shit. Nothing happens. The characters aren't interesting at all. The acting is, for the most part, is fucking horrible. Besides the two things that I mentioned, the two characters. Film. I also forgot to mention, this film looks and is shot terribly. I mean, I knew that going in, and that doesn't really, that doesn't really affect my overall, opinion on the film. But this film really suffers from terrible cinematography and terrible lighting. I mean, this film looks ass and feels like ass. I mean, feels like ass? It's a new term. Yeah, no, the cinematography is shit. Sound design is shit. Everything in this film is shit. Film shit. I'm going to give it an F. I don't really care. Like I said, I don't care. I don't have anything. Goodbye.